Welcome back to the Coin Stories podcast. I'm Natalie Brunell, and joining me again is Andy Schoonover. He is the founder and CEO of one of my partners, CrowdHealth, which is really my Bitcoin alternative to fiat health insurance. It saved me so much money over the last year, and I'm so grateful and honored that I've been able to help some people in the Bitcoin community with their healthcare costs. So, Andy, thanks so much for joining me on the show again.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here, as always.
Well, you were here about almost a year ago, January of this past year. So I really want to hear some updates on the company because I know that the business model changed a little bit. Before, I think you were offering the ability to sort of try to save in Bitcoin what you didn't spend on your healthcare. But now that's sort of on us to do privately, but we spend less on the membership to CrowdHealth. And it's just been, again, such a rewarding system to be a part of.
Yeah, so I'll back up from the beginning. I think, a couple of things that I really am trying to do, and maybe it's trying to tackle too much at once. I really want to burn down the healthcare system. It is just so brutally inefficient, and it is owned by rent seekers galore. And so, our first kind of goal is to really change healthcare. And as you've seen, is I think you've been a member for almost a year now, or maybe even longer than that. We've done a pretty good job of keeping those prices down for everybody as a result of some of the processes that we have internally and cash pay and things like that. The second thing I wanted to do is, could we expand the use of Bitcoin, expand the circularity of Bitcoin. And so we have been trying for a while to introduce Bitcoin into our processes. Our first attempt was to say, hey, for a single person under 55, it's $125 a month, and then $50 goes to CrowdHealth. So if we don't use all 125 because there's not enough expenses in the community to use all the 125, what we had asked you to do is, let's just say you use 75 of it. 75 would go to the person who needed help. That other 50, we would allow you to save that in Bitcoin. The problem that we ran into was just given some of the custodial things going on in the industry and some of the turmoil around that. A couple of our bigger states, Texas, for example, is one of our bigger states, didn't have access to that. And so we said, okay, well, instead of allowing people to, allowing us to facilitate that saving in Bitcoin, we just said, hey, why don't you keep the money and then you can invest it wherever you want. If you want to invest it in Bitcoin, if you want to invest it in your marriage, if you want to invest it wherever you want to invest it, you can invest it. It's your money. And so we kind of changed things over the last 6 months just to adjust to the changing kind of regulatory environment. So starting next year, we'll have changed it again because we really again want to incorporate Bitcoin more into what we do. And I'm here in the Bitcoin Commons. I was talking to Marty Bent, who all of us know. And he said something like, if we could just get 10 basis points of the current healthcare market being transacted in Bitcoin, that could change the trajectory of Bitcoin. So that's really what we're going to be trying to do in 2024.
I love it. Well, I want to hear the next update about Lightning Network, but I do just want to say again, people don't believe me when I say that I spend $100 or less on healthcare a month. And that is with helping people, whenever a pregnancy comes up or someone has an accident. So it just has been an amazing program because before I was spending hundreds of dollars and I wouldn't get sick. I wouldn't need the doctor and that money would just flow away from me. And so this has been so helpful to be able to start to save more. And so I've been really, really grateful for it. One thing I did want to ask you about before we talk about the Lightning update is just, I didn't realize that the United States spends more on healthcare than any other nation. We are so sick and so many people are dependent on pharmaceutical
Twice
drugs.
much.
And it's what's great though is the Bitcoin community is really focused on addressing not just the broken financial system, but also things like the broken healthcare system and making people more healthy, getting back to whole foods as opposed to being dependent on medications. Can you speak to some of that? Because you have such an expertise in this field. Why are we so sick compared to other nations?
Yeah, the obesity rate is about twice, the average of other OECD countries. What OECD is just I think it's 35 countries across the country that all supply data, and you can kind of compare yourself against other countries. Well, the United States is twice as high obesity rates. And so as you're looking at all these outcomes, people like to rip on the United States healthcare system because our outcomes are terrible. Well, if we're twice as obese, then, our outcomes are not going to be as good. For example, if you need a knee replacement, if you're 400 pounds versus if you're 175 pounds, you're going to have vastly different outcomes, right? And so the cost of our healthcare just goes up, and it's almost perfectly aligned with the rise in obesity in this country. And so, we have put a pretty significant amount of money behind educating our members around, healthy eating and avoiding seed oils, and really considering kind of low carb diets and things like that have been proven out to, reduce obesity rates, increase healthcare. And, that's kind of the third pillar of our mission, which is I want people to be healthy because that's going to change the long-term cost curve of healthcare. And probably even more importantly, like I want people to be able to run around with their grandkids when they're 80 in the backyard, right? Like that is human thriving to us. And that's such a core component of healthcare that people, especially health plans don't give a crap, if you're healthy or not. And actually they make more money when you're sick. So they don't have the incentive. Whereas our incentives are, we want you to be with CrowdHealth as long as possible, as healthy as possible. We make more money that way. The incentives are totally aligned with the organization. So we've done a lot of work on educating our members about some of the food issues that we're seeing in this country.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners who make this podcast possible. First up, Bitcoin 2024, the world's biggest Bitcoin conference, is coming to Nashville next year. Come join us for 3 full days of keynotes, panels, networking events, workshops, concerts, and more. Anything can happen here, especially if you dream of working in the industry. Ticket prices go up every month until the big event, so don't miss out. You want to get your tickets early. Head to b.tc/conference and use the code HODL, HODL, for 10% off. I'll see you in Nashville. Next up, CrowdHealth. Health insurance costs are sky high today, and you send your money every month to a massive corporation, and you never see that money again, even if you don't get sick. Luckily, there's another option, and it's all about community. CrowdHealth brings together Bitcoiners who crowdfund each other's healthcare, so you no longer have to pay fiat health insurance companies. You get to help other Bitcoiners, and they help you in return. So how it works is when someone needs a doctor or hospital visit, CrowdHealth negotiates down the medical bill lower than what insurance would be, and the community helps you fund the costs. You get to save the money you would have sent to insurance, and hey, why not put it into Bitcoin? For more information and to join, head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. You brought up incentives. I'm glad you did, because you're right. When they spend so much on healthcare, that just boosts our GDP. I mean, the whole thing is just absolutely backwards, and it almost incentivizes people being sick, people choosing unhealthy foods, and then becoming more and more dependent on this system. So again, grateful for companies like CrowdHealth. So what's the Lightning component? Because now you're going to facilitate the ability to transact. I know more and more doctors who are getting in the Bitcoin space want to be a part of this network. So what's the latest?
Yeah, real quick. I'm sorry. Back on that last point is, our Bitcoin members fund each other's healthcare expenses. So no longer are you subsidizing people who aren't taking their health, full responsibility over their own health. And so our costs have just been so low because Bitcoiners generally take really good care of themselves. They take personal sovereignty, for real. I mean, they take it, as a core almost of who they are. And so the expenses are really, really low. We wanted to dive deeper into Bitcoin. We wanted Bitcoin to be kind of a core of our transaction infrastructure. And so what we're doing is we partnered with Breeze, and we're integrating a Lightning wallet into the CrowdHealth app. So when a member, let's just say Natalie, falls and breaks her arm and it's $5,000, we're going to go out to a bunch of Bitcoiners and say, hey, will you send Natalie $5,000 worth of Bitcoin over the Lightning network so that she can pay her doctor? So instead of the backend infrastructure being on fiat rails, it's going to be on Lightning rails. And we are working with Breeze. We are doing some pretty cool things on the back end that I'm not sure has been done commercially in Lightning at all. So we have taken kind of the building out of the Lightning network as something that's really important to us. We're investing in that. I think you'll see asynchronous payments over Lightning with CrowdHealth, which I think is the first time that's been done commercially within kind of a commercial application. And so we're doing some really cool things over Lightning to, again, push innovation in Lightning and doing it within healthcare. Healthcare is a $4.3 trillion industry, right? So as I said earlier, if we could just get a little bit of that transacted over Bitcoin, then I think we can, make huge strides in, again, that Bitcoin circularity. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Right. Well, you're supporting the Bitcoin network and the Lightning nodes, but you're also making it a little bit less expensive as well because there are
Yes.
fees, right? Like wire transfer fees. This isn't that dissimilar from like things like remittances. Bitcoin addresses these fees that you don't necessarily have to pay if you move to something like the Lightning network, right?
Yeah, it's going, pennies instead of, 2.5 or 3%. So you're saving 2.5 or 3% right off the top, which is, with 2.5 or 3%, it's a great win to go, right off the top. So, and the other thing too is there's no KYC requirements anymore. So, once you go over to the Lightning network, you don't have to KYC, which increases privacy. It also, over I think the next 12 to 18 months, will allow us to go international. Since we don't have to KYC anymore using, the Lightning rails, we can be in Argentina or Brazil or the UK or some of these other places where people have reached out to us and said, hey, can we get involved in this? And so, it opens up the market for us, again, trying to get many transactions over the Lightning network, increase liquidity. We think that will push Lightning forward.
I want to talk about two benefits of the company. The first being that you negotiate down the cost of the medical bills, because that's one of the biggest perks. Even if you go to a doctor's office today and you say, actually, I don't have insurance, I'd like to pay in cash, you get this massive discount. And I don't understand that. Can you talk a little bit about how the costs could be so different and how you're able to negotiate down a bill that with insurance could have been tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah, absolutely. The doctors hate health insurance as much as we all do. The doctors have to get approvals from health insurance to provide you health care. They have to bill these insurance companies, and they have about 3 billers per every doctor just to bill, insurance companies. They spend about 30% of their time on the phone with insurance companies. And so, by not engaging with insurance companies, they get all this time back, they get all this money back. And so they're willing to give significant discounts as a result of getting paid, in cash or in Lightning, in Bitcoin at the point of care. And so that ultimately is the driver behind what makes CrowdHealth works. We're getting 50% better prices for our members than what health plans are paying for the large bills. So, United Healthcare, which is, I think, the 7th largest company on the planet, we're able to get 50% better pricing than them because we rip out all of the rent seekers, all of the administrative costs from that transaction. So that's the beauty of our model. And by the way, Natalie, too, that is also like we can rip out networks. So because it's 50% less, you don't have to worry about if your doctor's in network or out of network, which is such a huge pain in the butt.
Right. And the second thing is you are getting these bills covered. You have like 5,000 members now. So can you speak to maybe the people in the audience who have their fiat health insurance? Maybe it's very expensive if they have, say, a family, but they're worried about something like this because it just kind of sounds like you don't have a safety net, or maybe you won't be protected if the worst case scenario, if something happens.
Yeah, it's interesting because people are trying to decide oftentimes between CrowdHealth and a healthcare.gov Affordable Care Act plan. Well, 2 years ago, which is the last data that we have, I think it was 48 million claims were denied by healthcare.gov plans, and there was only 15 million people on those plans. So that's more than 3 claims per person were denied on Affordable Care Act plans, and that denial, in addition to really high deductibles, put something like 200,000 families into bankruptcy last year, even though they had health insurance. And so when people say, "Oh, well, I'm fearful of what crowd health, is and how it's different, and I don't fully understand it, and all these things," I'm just like, look, we've had, I think we're going on bill 10,000 now, right around 10,000 bills that we've had run through the system, and every bill that's been submitted to the community has gotten paid. And so I can't guarantee it's going to get paid, or else regulators will call me insurance. But that's just history. Everyone has gotten paid fully, and so and it's everything from a small pediatric visit of $49 to we've had, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8 cancer cases now, a brain hemorrhage, a motorcycle accident. We had a brain surgery, I think this week or last week. And so
Wow.
it's small bills in addition to large bills that are up to hundreds of $1,000s, multiple NICU babies. Unfortunately,
Wow.
one of which I think 2 or 3 months ago, we lost a little NICU baby.
Oh.
And so, we have shown an ability to help you get those bills paid.
Yeah, and sometimes nothing is more stressful than having that bill over your head. I mean, for a family that just lost a baby, I mean, the last thing you would want is to be hit with some massive tab from the hospital and you're
Yeah.
grieving. I mean, and these are real world examples. It's time for another quick break to hear these messages from my partners. I'm excited to share that I'm an advisor for the Orange Pill app. If you haven't downloaded this app yet, you're missing out on connecting with Bitcoiners in your area. The Orange Pill app is focused on building the social layer for Bitcoin and helping create opportunities for in-person connections and community building. You create a profile and you'll see lots of familiar faces, and then you can search for Bitcoiners and Bitcoin events based on your location. I'm geotagged in my home base, St. Louis, and I'm excited that Orange Pill app has allowed me to meet new people in my city. Come join us, use my referral code in the show notes, and start connecting today. Next up, I want to take a moment to recommend an outstanding recent book in the Bitcoin space, Bitcoin Evangelism by Brian DeMint. I've had the chance to have Brian on the show, and this is really the ultimate tool for orange pilling your friends, your family, your coworkers, and it will make you a more effective messenger for Bitcoin. We all have that story of how we disregarded Bitcoin the first time we heard about it because either the arguments weren't compelling enough or maybe they weren't framed in a way that we could easily grasp them. Think of something like trustlessness or immutability. These are concepts that now we understand as Bitcoiners, but how do you explain them simply to someone totally new in the space? Well, Bitcoin Evangelism will help you do that. It will allow you to become a Bitcoin evangelist so that we orange pill millions of new Bitcoiners in the new year. Head to the link in my show notes to buy the book today.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just had that woman literally just yesterday put something up on Trustpilot and said, "You all are a godsend, even though I lost my baby. You all have walked with me through this thing." And here's the coolest thing and the biggest difference, I think, between us and health insurance. Instead of you writing a check every month to United Healthcare for thousands of dollars, you're writing a check or not or paying in Lightning. Directly to another human being who needs help. So you're helping somebody directly every month. It doesn't pass through CrowdHealth. We don't touch it. It goes directly from me to another person who's helping. We had a member, I don't know, maybe it's a year ago now, who had a miscarriage. And we went out and there's expenses associated with that. And so we went to a bunch of people and we said, "Hey, will you help this person who has a miscarriage?" Well, we had a number of women come back to us and say, "Hey, that's a part of my story. I know what that family is going through. I want to help them. But instead of $100, can I give them $200? Because that's the only way I know how to help. But they're a part of my little crowd health community." And so it's like, man, it's so cool every month to be able to help somebody directly, generously, as opposed to giving it to United Healthcare, who couldn't give two shits about this person, who's suffering in many ways. And so, we say fund humans, not health insurance. And that's really what we're doing is your money is going directly to another human being to help them with something going on in their life.
Yeah, it's really well said, and I'm super picky about the partners that I choose, and I only like to work with companies that I would actually use their products. And this is one that I've been super proud to use because I do feel like I'm protected, and it's by a community of people who share the same values, and I'm eager to help them as well. So it's just been great to see that I've been able to also save, and I'm encouraged to stay healthy. So Andy, this has been really great. I mean, I'm sure it's really fun to build. I know it's been a bear market, but any thoughts when we zoom out at the market overall? Because you've been building during a lot of headwinds coming your way
Yeah.
when it comes to Bitcoin. Maybe a word of advice as well for people that are also trying to work in this space and build companies.
Man, I just think it's if you're passionate about it, if it's a mission of yours, then as entrepreneurs, you will do well in a down market, a bear market, and a bull market, right? And so, we're just super fired up about changing the monetary system, changing the healthcare system, and so, unfortunately, even though it's been a bear market, we've done great with the Bitcoin community, and I said this recently, like without Bitcoiners, I'm not sure if we would be here. And so we're just so thankful for people who are supporting us, and we're trying to support the Bitcoin community in the same way. And so I think those relationships lead to really to thriving ultimately. So thanks to all the Bitcoiners out there who supported us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and for the people out there who still are like, I can't do without my regular healthcare insurance. I actually know people that have both now, because you're right, a lot
Mhm.
of things that could happen to you aren't necessarily fully covered. A lot of submissions actually get totally rejected. So you might want to have that extra safety net at only $50 a month. So
Yeah.
Andy, it's been great to work with your company. Any final thoughts or things you want to share?
Yeah, about 20% of our members have health insurance. They're still trying to figure us out. Like, is this real? Is this not real? Ultimately, a lot of those people ditch their health insurance and come back over to us. So, yeah, join us at joincrowdhealth.com. We'd love for you to join the crowd.
Yep, and it's open enrollment, so I bet a lot of people are
Hmm.
considering it now. And we're two stories where we know that we support this, and has treated us well. So thanks so much, Andy.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you so much for checking out the video version of my show. Remember, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing constitutes as official investment advice, and you should always do your own research. Please reach out if you have guest suggestions or any feedback. My email is natalie@talkingbitcoin.com, and I'll see you next time.